Okay.
Okay, that's okay.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
I am delighted to be here, and I wish to thank Mr. S.R. Madhu and the Rotary Club of Madras South for extending this invitation to me. In Chennai, we have this habit of thinking about water only when there is a serious drought or there is a heavy flood. The moment the crisis is over, we tend to become complacent. If the Chennai floods of 2015 and the severe water crisis of 2019 have taught us anything, it is that there is something fundamentally wrong with our water management, number one, and number two, it can't be business as usual. We have to seriously rethink our water management, and we can't be applying 19th century solutions to 21st century problems. Next. John F. Kennedy once said, anyone who can solve the problems of water will be worthy of 2 Nobel Prizes, one for peace and one for science. Now, as the gentleman who introduced me said, that science and technology for providing adequate water in good quality to all the denizens of a great metropolitan city like Chennai or Delhi or Bangalore or whatever have been known for the last 30 years. There is no problem with the science. The problem is with people. The problem is with governance. As all of you know, overcoming technological challenges is the easy part. Improving governance and changing public behavior, people's behavior, are very difficult. And that is where we have failed. And let me also, for this proper sense of perspective, let me say, barring a few cities and countries like Israel, Singapore, Japan, surprisingly Cambodia, Costa Rica, and a few countries in Europe, the vast majorities of countries, especially in the developing world, have failed to manage water properly. India is not the only country just done badly. The vast majority of countries in the world have failed to manage water properly. In fact, we can say there is not even a single city in South Asia, by South Asia I mean India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, there is not a single city which can provide good quality water 24/7 that can be drunk straight from the tap, the way you can do it in Europe or some other countries. Next please. Now you can see the picture of a stormwater drain and a reservoir into which it is flowing. Can somebody tell me what it's from, where it's from, the picture? Very good. It is from Dholavira in Gujarat, 2500 BC, 4500 years old. The first thing that strikes you is the stormwater drain looks much better than the Chennai stormwater drains which were built last year in your locality. These are about 4500 years old. The Indus Valley civilization, they were great urban planners, they were fantastic water managers, and yet about 2000 BC, the civilization collapsed. And as you all know, it was because of a prolonged drought. That illustrates the importance of proper water management. Next. Can you tell me what this is?
This is Akbar's wine stop.
Akbar's Fatehpur Sikri. Fatehpur Sikri. Buland Darwaza in Fatehpur Sikri. Now, Akbar shifted his capital. Everybody knows that Muhammad bin Tughlaq shifted his capital from Delhi to Dawlatabad and came back. What we have not been taught properly in history is that Akbar also did something like that. He shifted his capital from Agra to Fatehpur Sikri. And after 13 years, he shifted his capital back to Agra because there was no water in Fatehpur Sikri. One of the few blunders committed by Akbar was otherwise a great emperor. Next please. Now, I put here the clippings of 2 news items which would come as a shock to you. The first is, India, world's wettest place, suffers water shortage. Cherrapunji is considered to be the world's wettest place. Now it is ranked 2, but long time it was ranked number 1, but still it is the second wettest place. Can you believe it? In a place like Cherrapunji, there is no water in summer. It suffers from water scarcity in summer. This is a BBC news item. It's true. You can Google and check for yourself. The second news item says, Calcutta, a water-rich city turning water poor. Now, Calcutta is situated on the banks of the Hooghly, in the delta of one of the mightiest rivers of the world, the Ganges, and Calcutta has no water. Now, Now, what do these two news items tell us? That it's not a problem of physical scarcity of water, it's a problem of mismanagement of water. That's what. Next. Now this is Chennai's Day Zero. Now Day Zero sounds like the title of an apocalyptic horror movie or something. No. What Day Zero means is all the reservoirs supplying water to a city have dried up, the public taps are running dry. And that's what it means. Chennai, as you know, experienced its Day Zero on June 18th of this year. All the 4 taps ran dry, and this is a picture of Chembarabakam reservoir, which is the biggest of the 4. And you can see there is not a drop of water, and you can see so many dead fish there. Now, okay, I will come to that next. This is about groundwater. There was a report by Niti Ayog. As you know, Niti Ayog is the new name for the Planning Commission in July 2018, which said India is facing the worst crisis in its history, and 21 cities will run out of groundwater by 2020. In July 2018, Niti Ayog predicted that 21 Indian cities will run out of groundwater, not surface water, groundwater by 2020, and these are the 21 cities. You will find Chennai among them. You find Bangalore, Vellore, Hyderabad, a whole lot of them. Now this is a very serious matter, because now we are dependent only on surface water and groundwater for most of our water requirements. Now you will be surprised to know, in spite of having so many rivers in the country, 80% of India's drinking water needs are still dependent on groundwater. In spite of having Ganges, Brahmaputra and Kaveri and all that, 80% of the groundwater still comes from, 80% of drinking water supply still comes from groundwater. 2/3 of water for irrigation is supplied by groundwater. You can check a picture of these facts. Some of them may seem very alarming or strange to you. Now, in spite of Bakranangal Dam, Hirakud Dam, Sagar Sarovar Dam and Indra Sagar Dam and all kinds of dams, and so many canals, only about 1/3 of India's irrigation is from dams and canals. 2/3 is still by groundwater. And because of this free power and all sorts of things, farmers have been extracting groundwater indiscriminately. 84% of the total addition to irrigation over the last 4 decades has come from groundwater. Now, this general realization is that big dams are waste. So farmers have generally, because in case of groundwater, farmers have more control over the timing and so on. And the last thing, 60% of India's districts face groundwater overexploitation. So 60% of the districts are black or grey. Next, please. Now, as you all know, groundwater extraction comes with certain price, at a certain price. The first is, if you are a coastal city, there is seawater intrusion that makes your aquifers salty. All of us in Chennai know that. Second, as you go deeper and deeper, the water from the groundwater tends to have arsenic and some other toxic chemicals. Third, and the most dangerous thing is, when you extract too much of groundwater, there is a subsidence of the land. And many cities in the world have already faced this problem. There's a saying in English, wise men learn from others' mistakes, fools don't learn even from their own mistakes. Now, if you are somewhat wise, we need to learn from other people's mistakes. For example, Tokyo sunk almost 2 meters before groundwater extraction from beneath the city was completely stopped. It was completely banned, then Tokyo stopped sinking. Jakarta is sinking so much, almost 7 centimeters every year or something. It is sinking so much, so fast, that government of Indonesia has decided to shift its capital from Jakarta. Beijing, several districts of Beijing, because of over-extraction of groundwater, have sunk. Beijing has fallen, China's capital sinking by 11 centimeters a year, satellite study warns. And because of this, the government of China has decided to shift all the non-capital functions from Beijing to another city called some Xiong, unpronounceable names of Xiong, Gong, or something like that. And don't think this is happening only abroad, it's happening in India also. Lucknow, under threat of massive subsidence, land sinking from over-exploitation of groundwater, Lucknow is sinking, Calcutta is sinking. Estimated average subsidence is about 13.5 mm per year for every 1 meter drop. For every 1 meter drop of groundwater, the land is sinking about 1.35 centimeters. Now, I don't think till now Chennai has faced this problem, but it is bound to happen if you don't stop our indiscriminate water extraction. So you realize that this is quite dangerous, and this is an irreversible process. Once it starts, it starts slipping, your buildings, everything will collapse. In fact, there's a Millennium Tower in San Francisco, which was built in 2005, 53 stories tall. Because of groundwater extraction and subsidence, the tower is now tilting. It has become the leaning tower of San Francisco. Next. No, I'm sure all of you are aware of this, but I would just like to illustrate the point. Why are our aquifers not getting recharged? Because of urbanization and industrialization, most of the grounds are paved over. Now, supposing there is no paving, natural ground cover, then 25% plus 25%, 50% of the water goes into the ground. 10% is the runoff, and 40% is lost by evaporation, transpiration. That's fine. Now, 10 to 20% impervious surface, like your roads or concrete, you put that. Then what happens is the water going down becomes less. It becomes 21 plus 21, 42%. Runoff becomes more, 20%. Evapotranspiration loss becomes slightly less, 38%. Now, if 35 to 50% of the impervious surface is there, then infiltration, groundwater recharging becomes much less, 20 plus 15, 35%. Runoff becomes 30%, and 35% evapotranspiration loss. Now, most of our cities are in the last quadrant. We are in the 75 to 100% impervious surface. We have concrete roads, tar roads, buildings all over. What happens? Only 10% plus 5%, 15% of the water goes down for recharging the aquifers, and runoff is 55%. And there used to be several natural, channels, Odai, Wali, and all we used to say in Tamil. And the various tanks used to be connected by canals and the other things. Now, all those things have either been paved over or encroached upon. Naturally, floods are going to happen. If you are going to have 55% of the water as runoff, and those things have no place to run, obviously you are going to have floods. Next, please. I request you to see a small video, short video. It's just about 2 minutes long. Play to the beginning.
可以渗水的，它的这个材料呢是透水沥青，我们可以通过一个实验来展示一下它的这个渗水的效果啊。我们这个效果就可以达到那个小雨不湿鞋，中雨不积水，大雨不内涝。因为在下雨的时候，我们依然可以在这个路面上散步。
我们永远不可能在我们的城市中根结洪水这样的一个自然的过程，我们必须学会与洪水 부어주니까 호수를 방지할 수 있고, 그리고 그 물 가지고 자기 하니까 식량도 만들 수 있고, 그리고 여름에 온도를 낮출 수가 있습니다. 그래서
As you know, groundwater recharging and flood management are interconnected. You can't think of one without thinking of the other. The problem in Tamil Nadu is, whenever there's a drought, whenever there's a flood, we keep talking only about two things. One, we talk about rejuvenation and restoration of the various water bodies in and around Chennai. Of course, we have to do that. They are necessary, they are important, but they are not sufficient. As mathematician would say, these are necessary conditions but not sufficient conditions. Similarly, rainwater harvesting, as defined in Tamil Nadu, this one is very narrow in scope. Collecting water and storing it in a sump or recharging groundwater is very narrow in scope. We need a rainwater harvesting version 2, which is much broader in scope, like the Spawn Cities program of China. Now, this program was started only in 2015 to curb floods and also to recharge the aquifers. And the 3 or 4 main components are there. One, they use rooftop gardens. Chennai also, a few people here and there do that, but it should be made mandatory, because rooftop garden, not only the plants absorb the water, they slow the speed of the runoff. The water which is running off, the 55% water that is running off during rains, its speed gets slowed down, so floods don't happen. So rooftop, there are so many buildings, with big roofs and all that, so all number one. And number two, wherever you have, in fact all our houses, backyard, front yard, it's all paved with concrete. It is impermeable. Roads are impermeable. So they have shifted to, as you can see, porous asphalt, porous this one. The moment the water falls, it goes in, it disappears in no time. So you need to shift to this. You have vast parking lots. In apartment blocks, you have vast open spaces. All of this is usually paved with concrete. Now we have to look at concrete with as much disfavor as we look at single-use plastic. There has been a campaign to ban plastic and this and that. Concrete can't be banned fully. You need concrete for buildings and bridges and things like that. But definitely, concrete is not necessary in many places. And concrete being impervious, it creates most of the problems. So the third part is what is called, Chennai we had naturally so many things, floodplains, this and all these things we had. Most of it has disappeared, but we must recreate it. For example, the Adayar Eco Park is the closest thing to this I can think of, which is tries to this one. But you don't need big areas. Wherever possible, you should put up what's called detention pond. Here and there, everywhere you put detention ponds. Avoid drainages. In fact, the thinking in China is no stormwater drainage. Stormwater drainage is yesterday Mohenjo-daro Harappa technology. You don't use it in 21st century. Whatever water falls in the city, rain falls in the city, 80% of it must be retained in the same city, same locality, same city, by having rooftop gardens, porous pavements, detention ponds and various parks, green cover. And even channels, they say don't have concrete lined channels, have natural green channels, they are called swales. So that is the thinking, and that's what we should move towards. We are not doing that, we are not doing anything about it, we are still talking about the old rainwater harvesting. Now my point is, rainwater harvesting is important, but you can harvest rain only if there is rain. If there is no rain, for 2 years it doesn't rain, then where are you going to harvest it? What are you going to harvest? Number one. Number two, let's say an average family requires a family of 5 requires about 500 liters of water per day, 100 liters per day. For 30 days you need 15,000 liters. So let's say I build a sump for 15,000 liters. Now I may be able to, my house has got, I got a 2-ground plot, I may be able to build it. High income and middle income people may be able to build it. But what about low income people who live in less than 1,000 square feet or 500 square feet? They don't have either the space or the money to build a sump. So we need to think beyond the existing rainwater harvesting. And the water that you collect in rainy season in winter will not definitely last you till the next, when you need it most next summer, which is about 5-6 months away. More than all this, the main problem with these two things, I mean, what Tamil Nadu government and the media talk about, rejuvenation of water sources and the rainwater harvesting, it gives us a false assurance and a false hope that either end panna podum, no. These two are necessary, as I keep saying, but not sufficient. We need to do many more things. And any media talk, any government talk, any NGOs talk, you find this revolves only around these two topics, and that is worrying because we need to do many more things in terms of water management. Next. Yeah. Let it be. Now again, the same Niti Aayog report which I told you in July 2008, it threw up another bombshell. We don't just have a quantity problem, we also have a quality problem. There is a global water index, and in 2018, India ranked 120 out of 122 countries. We are in the bottom 3. That's very deadly. 70% of the water in India is contaminated. I mean, it's contaminated in various ways. For example, agriculture, you use a lot of fertilizers, that chemical, the runoff, it goes into lakes and rivers. That is one thing. Second, many industries, they quietly release industrial sewage without proper treatment into rivers and lakes. Then municipal sewage, domestic sewage, it's also released into municipal. This is a worldwide problem, not just in India. And as a result, most rivers have become sewers and most lakes have become cesspools. The mighty Yamuna river is like a drain. The mighty Ganges is like a drain. And I need not tell you about the 3 rivers in the Buckingham Canal in Chennai. You know how it is. So rivers and water bodies everywhere have got polluted. And you might remember reading in Bangalore, the lakes started catching fire. There's so much of pollution. Some of the lakes caught fire. So that is a ridiculous extent to which we have gone. So we have a serious water quality problem. Now again, groundwater, it says. I asked the metro water guys, during the summer, they bring tanker water. They pump water from the villages and bring it. Actually, it's like water grab. I mean, instead of land grab, we are just grabbing the water from some far-off villages, depriving them of their water. Now I asked the metro water guys, are you doing any water quality test? They said, sir, our water we do, the tanker water we don't know. So you don't even know what kind of water you are getting when you buy a tanker of water. Now the Niti Aayog report says, overall the groundwater is contaminated with the presence of excess nitrate. All these things are bad. In as many as 386 districts, remember there are 640 districts in India, 386 districts, followed by fluoride in 335 districts, iron in 301 districts, salinity in 212, arsenic in 153, lead in 93 districts, chromium in 30 districts, and cadmium in 24 districts of different states across India. Many districts have more than 1, 2, 3 toxic elements in there. So the groundwater quality is deadly. So not only is the problem of groundwater quantity, the groundwater quality is bad. Not only we have a problem of surface water quantity, the surface water quality is also bad because all the sewage and other things are left there. Now in India as a whole, if you take Indian cities collectively, only about 30% of the wastewater is actually treated. And that too not properly. Only about 10% is treated properly. 30% where carefully treat pandra, 70% is not even treated. It's just left into the rivers and other things. So we have a serious pollution problem. Of course, there are ways of improving it. There is what's called bioremediation plants. There are some plants and microbes and other things, bacteria, algae, they can eat these pollutants. So, we have to do all that next. Now, I'll tell you a tale of 2 cities. Now, you must tell me what are the cities A and city B. This is a short quiz for you. In city A, average annual rainfall is 2,340 millimeters. City B is 1,400 millimeters. Surface area, city A 721 square kilometers, city B 426 square kilometers. Population 5.64 million, 7.5 million. Reservoirs 17, 4 plus 1. That asterisk means it's under construction. Interbasin transfer, both have, yes. Desalination plants, city A has 3, 2 under construction. City B has 2, 2 under construction. Wastewater reclamation plants, city A has 5, city B has 2 plus 2. Water demand management, city A does excellently, city B does nothing. And water leakage and theft, in city A it's only about 5%, in city B it's about 40%. And water quality parameters tested, in city A 116 parameters are tested, in city B it is 21 parameters. I hope you have no difficulty in identifying city B is Chennai.
Chennai.
City A,
Singapore.
Singapore, very good. So Singapore is city A. So reservoirs, Singapore in 1960, they had just 3 reservoirs, but they systematically expanded number of reservoirs. Today they have 17. Chennai, at the time of independence, had 4 reservoirs. It still has 4 reservoirs. You know, when I was principal secretary, municipal administration, I realized that we badly need a 5th reservoir in times of rain and other things. Even for this Krishna water, for example, we are supposed to get 4 TMC of water between January 1st and 30th of April, 8 TMC of water between 1st of July and 31st of October. 4 and 8, that is agreed to during MGR's time. He made a mistake there because January is the time when all our lakes are anyway full because it will be raining in November and December. He should have said 1st of March to 31st of October, 12 TMC, but he made a mistake. Anyway, so I was municipal administration secretary, I was monitoring the water flow from Krishna water, and I found that by 20th of January, we had received 1 TMC, and our metro water fellows were saying, sir, we don't have space to hold anymore. So we had to tell the Andhra guys, stop it. So we wasted 3 TMC that time. So Andhra and Karnataka are like banks. You know, banks, they are willing to lend you money when you don't actually need it, when you are doing fine. And when you need the money, they will say sorry. So Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka, they are willing to give you water when they have floods, and they won't give you the water when you desperately need the water. So interbasin, so that's it. So interbasin transfer, Singapore gets 50% of its water from a place called Johor in Malaysia. So that agreement will last till 2061. And they want to become water independent by 2061. That's why they are focusing on water management very intensively. Chennai, as you know, we are getting interbasin transfer from Krishna water. So there is a lot of similarities between the two. Desalination plants, you'll be surprised to note, many of you won't believe this when I say, we were actually ahead of both Singapore and Israel in desalination and wastewater reclamation. Tamil Nadu put its first desalination 10 MLD plant in Ramanathapuram 1998-99. I have seen it myself, 98-99. Singapore put its first plant in 2005. Of course, it put a big plant and then it did rapidly. They plan very well, and once they are convinced that this is necessary, they implement fast. So we put a small thing in 1998, and the next big thing we started in about 2006. We completed by the Minjur thing by 2010. Similarly, wastewater, you'll be surprised. 1993, Chennai put up a wastewater treatment plant for treatment of secondary wastewater supplied to petrochemical industries in Manali and all that. 36 MLD. MLD means million liters per day. 93. Next, after so many years, recently in October, we have installed another 45 MLD plant. Look at the gap, 26 years. Whereas Singapore and Israel, they actually started after us. So in some respects, our fellows were ahead of the curve, but they didn't sustain the advantage. Then, water demand management, I'll come to that point later. Water leakage and theft, atrocious. Singapore has reduced it to 5%. In Chennai, it's about 40%. I'll come to it again later. And water quality, if we are all healthy and safe, I think we don't know whom to thank, whether it is. So, next. So this is briefly the history of water management. Metro Water was formed in 1978. In all other municipalities and corporations, the corporation looks after water supply as well. In Chennai, because it's very big, the water supply function was carved out and given to Metro Water. In 1996, Telugu Ganga, 401 kilometers open, 930 MLD Krishna water. If we had got this water, we wouldn't be having any problem at all. We are not getting it. As I said, we get it but we don't want it, we don't get it but we want it. Because even today, Chennai's total water supply is only 830 MLD. MLD means million liters per day. The Telugu Ganga alone is supposed to give 930. So this interbasin water transfer, many people will say, no, Ganga, Kaveri and all, that's all yesteryear solutions. Krishna linde una goramati the thanni, Ganga linde. So then 2002 rainwater harvesting, 2004 new Viranam, 180 MLD from Kaveri water, 2010 Minjur diesel, 2013 MLA diesel, 2015 one more source. Next please. Now Singapore, they call their thing as 4 national taps. First tap is local catchment water, that is surface water in the reservoirs. I said they increased it from 3 to 17. Oh, sorry. Chennai, I said it was 4 before independence, it's still 4, I got distracted. in 2010, when I was Mass Secretary, I said, because I found that we didn't have enough capacity, I said we must start anew. We must have a fifth reservoir in a place called Thervai Kadige. I initiated the proposal by the time the government changed. And as you know, in Tamil Nadu, we have the thing, whatever the DMK starts, the ADMK stops, and whatever the ADMK starts, the DMK stops. So I was very worried that this project will not go through. Luckily, the finance secretary remained the same. He is the present chief secretary, he remained the same. And he convinced Jayalalitha that this should go through. Even though it was initiated during DMK time, it should go through. So she announced it in 2012 or something, but you won't believe it. 7 years later, these guys are yet to complete it. They've built the reservoir, but they're yet to connect it to the other 4 reservoirs. So Singapore says one is reservoir, surface water, second is imported water, Johor, third is new water. They call the reclaimed wastewater as new water, because if you say reclaimed wastewater, everybody has a yuck feeling, they will say. They're very clever. They don't say wastewater, they call it as used water. They don't say sewage treatment plant, they call it water reclamation plant. And they don't say purified water, they call it new water. So we should also change the term. No sewage treatment plant on the sewage. I think we should call it as water reclamation plants. And the last is desalinated water. So they call this as the 4 taps. Next please. As I told you, they increased the reservoirs from 3 to 17. Next. Now this is how they have planned. Remember I told you they're right now getting 50% of their water from Malaysia, Johor. That will stop in 2061, so they want to be independent. Now, right now, 30% of their water is coming from new water, that is recycled wastewater, and 25% from desalinated water. You can see in the extreme left. And 2030, they want 50% of the water to come from new water, that is recycled, reclaimed wastewater, and 30% from desalinated water. And 2060, 55% from the reclaimed wastewater and 30% from next. Now this is Chennai. We really didn't have to go for reservoirs. We have plenty of reservoirs. There are some 4,000 water bodies in and around Chennai. But most of them were for agriculture purpose. Now the mistake that was happening was, as long as there is an ayakat area, meaning irrigated area, the farmers will not allow this pollution of the water body should take place. Once the ayakat area becomes housing area or commercial area, then there is no check. Everybody starts letting their wastage, sewage into the pond. So the government should have a policy. When the ayakat area of an irrigation tank goes below 50%, government should buy out the irrigation rights of the farmers and convert it into a water source. Not all, at least the bigger tanks. That's what the British did. Chambarabakam and all used to be a irrigation tank, but British said they paid the farmers and they said, we are converting it into a water source. Our fellows are not doing that now. They are completely. And Corporation of Chennai is saying they are going to reclaim 210 water bodies. Let's see what they do. Next, please. Now, these are the 4 storage reservoirs in Chennai. You all are aware of it. Mundi, Cholavaram, Red Hills, Chambarabakam, and Veeranam. Next, please. The recent Idula, they found some new sources. Apart than quarry water, other than I don't know about the quality of that, but then hired agri bore wells, new bore wells, all kinds of things. Next, please. Yeah. We already have 2 desalination plants, one in Minjur, 100 MLD, million liters per day, another in Nameli. We are going to put up another in Nameli expansion, 150, Perur 400. Now, there's a lot of misconception and mental block about desalination plants. Number 1, people say, first of all, let's talk about the positives. The water is very pure. It's not like your surface water or groundwater. You can be rest assured it's very pure. 2, it is costlier. It's more energy intensive, no doubt. But the technology is continuously improving. I told you in 1998 we put up a 10 MLD plant in Ramanathapuram. That was a thermal distillation method where the water is evaporated and cooled kind of thing. That was highly energy intensive and costly. Now we have water method called reverse osmosis method, which is cheaper and technology is improving. The problems of science can be solved by better science, not by abandoning science. You just need better science. Now the second problem people say is it harms the fishermen. Now, the fishermen ஒரு 100-150 ஃபேமிலிக்கோஸ்கர you can't hold a host, I mean 1 crore population, Chennai city you can't be, their needs are more than the 100 families of fishermen. And even otherwise, fishermen don't fish near the coast, they go several kilometers away into the sea. And the brine, the discharge, that is, goes in a pipe about 500 meters into the sea and discharges the brine. And studies have shown that within a 500 meter radius, the sea being so vast, the quality becomes okay. The third point people say is it harms the marine environment. Yes, this is an old development versus environment debate. Now the Nemeli water plant, desalination plant has a sea frontage of 300 meters. Now you look at Chennai port, it has a sea frontage of several kilometers. If you look at Ennur thermal power plant, it has several kilometers. If you look at Kudankulam nuclear power plant or some oil refinery, they all have a sea frontage of several kilometers. Now, can we say that their environmental effects are even more adverse than a desalination plant? But we need those things. You can't do without all those, and you can't do without a desalination plant. The last point is, some people say, again misguided, they say, don't want big plants, let's put 10 mld, 20 mld. This is totally misguided, because the smaller the size, the less efficient it is. The 100 mld is the minimum size you find internationally. 300, 400 is the thing. Metro Water claims that 100 mld plants have an efficiency of about 62%. That is, if you 1 liter of fresh water, you get from 1.6 liters of seawater. But if you go in for small plants, then the efficiency is much lower. It will be only about 20% of that. Next, please. Wastewater, I told you that way back in 1993, a plant for 36 mld of secondary wastewater for supplying to industries was put up. We did it 10-12 years before Israel and Singapore did it, but thereafter we did nothing. And last month, only in October, one more plant for 45 mld we inaugurated in this one. Why you need wastewater treatment? You remember I told you, industries, households are all releasing their water into our water tank. We need it for health and water reasons, number one. And we also need it for a second reason. Desalination and wastewater reclamation are the only two climate change independent sources. Your surface water and groundwater are not climate change independent. And wastewater, once it is refined, it is excellent, it is very, very good, and it's purer than regular water. But we have a yuck factor. So in Israel and Singapore, they have launched a serious public education campaign. They tell people, the Prime Minister drinks it on TV, the actors drink it. They keep telling the students, this is safe, this is safe. Or at least use it for non-potable purposes. Give it for hotels, thermal cooling, all sorts of things, give it for that. Next, please. In Chennai, as I said, in normal times, the water supply is about 830 mld. Out of it, surface water is about 65%. Groundwater is 10%. 27% is desalination, 3% is wastewater. This is normal time. Now, when the distress time, like we had in June this year, surface water has come down, groundwater has gone up, desalination quantity is same, but the percentage is more, and this also quantity is same, percentage is more. Next, please. So I have done the same projection like Singapore. My feeling is in 2030 and 2060, we should plan for at least 10, 30, 40 years. No point in planning for 5 years and 10 years. The problem in India is, you'll be surprised there have been 11 water resources ministers in the center from between 2000 and 2019. And for 5 years it was in charge minister. 11 ministers till now. And Metro Water has a new MD every 6 months or 1 year. Now in the Mari actually you can't be planning long term. So my own thing is, it's not showing fully, that in 2030 and 2050, we should reduce our dependence on surface water and groundwater, and we should depend more on desalination water and this one, at least 33. So that in the worst case scenario, if there is not a single drop of water in the surface reservoirs, groundwater is completely dried up, you still have about 67% of water. Illaty you are going to be miserable. Next. Yeah. As I said, all this time we are only talking about supply management. That's what we are doing in India. But equally important is demand management, which we are not doing at all. Now, if you look at the global average, agriculture consumes 70%, industries 20%, and households 10%. Now, media and everybody is talking only about how we can conserve that 10% of household thing. Either pannunga, shower kammi pannunga, other pannunga, adella panna vendidha. But you think about, do an ABC analysis, the real saving has to be done in agriculture and industries. In India, agriculture is about 85%, industries are about 9%, domestic is about 6%. Now, agriculture, the rural population of about, this one, in Tamil Nadu, rural population is only 40%. India as a whole, it may be about 65%. 65% of the population is using 85% of the water. You know, this cannot be. But agriculture is a holy cow. Nobody dares touch them. Everybody's politicians are afraid of them. Now, they are wasting about 60% of the irrigation water, and our agricultural productivity is very low. Half of that of China in terms of paddy, 1/3 of that of China in terms of other cereals. Very, very low productivity. You know, and you'll be surprised. We are exporting virtual water. What do you mean by virtual water? We export water in water-intensive crops like paddy, sugarcane, cotton, and water meat, water buffalo meat. The water, when we export that, all these are water-intensive industries. The water that these require is about 4 times the water that all the industries in India and households in India require. So why should we, you know? So there's a need to persuade farmers to switch over to less water-intensive crops and use drip irrigation. Drip irrigation considerably reduces the water thing. Similarly, if you take industries, they are also, I mean, industrial water productivity is the lowest in the world, India. Very lot of water is wasted. Power plants alone use about 88% water. So there are also industries must be given only recycled water, and they must be told you have to manage yourself. You know, I mean, the industries may not like it, but you have to, they may already suffer from so many other problems. Then metering. Chennai, there's no metering. Industries have some metering. And commercial establishments, metering. Households, nothing. Flat water rates. But unless you have metering, at least you should have metering in every street and everything, so that you can pinpoint where exactly theft and the loss is going on. You meter the big house, apartment blocks and big households, 3,000 square plinth area and above, you meter them first. Then you come down to 2,000, then you come down to 1,000, maybe below 1,000 you leave it. But you need to do metering. Without metering you have no control. And pricing of water, here the water is very cheap, and world experience is unless you price the water, you cannot, I mean, water conservation mudiyam. And the thing is not more, the price should not be more than 2% of the family income. You know, average Indian income is about 1 lakh per year. In Chennai maybe it's about 1.5 lakhs. So 2% of 1.5 lakhs is about 3,000 rupees. So you should not, the water bill should not be more than 3,000 rupees for the average family. Non-revenue water, that is water lost due to leakage and thefts. Metro Water claims that they are losing only 20%. That's a lie. They are losing actually 40 to 50%. There was a BBC report about Bangalore which said their loss is 49%. There's no reason why Chennai is much more efficient than Bangalore. They are also likely to be 40%. Now, world average is 35%. You know, world average is 35%. Even many developed countries have water losses up to 30%, 25%. So Chennai like 20 and Israel, Singapore, Japan, they all have about 5 to 7%. The surprising thing is Phnom Penh, capital of Cambodia, their losses were 83% about 25 years ago. Now they have brought it down to 7 in 25 years. That's remarkable, you know, and a developing country like Cambodia. Then changing behavior through public education. We don't find any public education. Children should be taught in schools. Domestic, in Singapore they have a system of not only teaching children, but even domestic servants, migrant workers, because these are the fellows who are actually handling the water. Everybody is taught, you know, you must save water, save water. R&D, very little R&D is done by our IITs or anybody, very little R&D. Next. So we finished this. I conclude with a quote of H.L. Mencken, he was a famous American editor. He said, for every complex problem, there is a solution that is simple, clear and wrong. So this is a very complex problem, but we are coming up with very simplistic solutions. According to me, we can't stop with rejuvenation of water bodies and rainwater harvesting. Many more things need to be done. We need to move towards climate-independent water sources. We need to worry about the quality. We need to enforce regulations strictly so that industries, households don't let sewage into the thing. Water quality should be a top priority. Then demand management is very important. We should reduce the leaks from 40% to 5% or 10%. It is possible. If Phnom Penh can bring it from 83 to 7, why can't we do it? We should also be able to do it. So these are all equally important. That's it. Thank you.